This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? We are enjoying some spring-like weather here in the desert, and I understand it's warming up in several places around the United States. So we're happy about that. They just didn't give a darn, though, about the cold sub-zero temperatures in Iowa this week. What a turnout. But if you live in a place like that, you do have snow clothes, you have cold weather clothes, you get your boots out and your coats out and you go. The only difficulty is in some of those rural roads where they have gravel and you can't snow plow them like you can the regular asphalt. So it was still just a great turnout for everybody who voted. And if you're a Trump supporter, it was a lot of fun. So I think I want to discuss today, what should women care about in the 2024 election? What are the most important points to them, for them, as they seek some answers from the candidates? But I think this is going to be the most important election of our life, but I also think it's going to be a plethora of vitriol and be the most turbulent election we have probably ever seen in this country. It seems to be more like a spat between teenagers calling out each other horrible names, accusing people of the different things. The only ones that we're seeing right now are the Republicans because they are in primaries and the caucus that was held on Monday. It's just an amazing thing to me how you can spit out such horrible things about people and then go ahead and think that you can be buddies and maybe be put on a list for a cabinet position or vice president after you've said terrible things about people. I don't know, even the women can't speak nicely of people, or maybe they speak worse than men. Who knows? It's quite something to be watching. I don't know. I've been doing some research lately, and there's a whole lot of things that women are interested in. One of them that is vying for the number one important subject for women is immigration. And I'll tell you about that in just a moment. The other one is productive rights and abortion. Those seem to be the top two things, or the top one thing vying with each other as the most important thing for these people running for office. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware that more women were registered to vote in the last election than men, or said that they would be using their vote to speak. I find that interesting. It used to be the other way around. Women stayed at home. They weren't that interested in it. They did get the vote at a late time, a late age in the United States. But don't forget, we are a democracy. In a lot of countries, the women have nothing to say about anything. Hence, they are covered up and only show their eyes. So there is a political reason as well as a religious reason for that. And I don't want to get into that. But remember, women have a lot of rights in the United States that a lot of countries don't give to women. So we are very fortunate, and you should register to vote, and you should exercise your right to vote. That's why I'm talking about some of the different candidates running. Today, I'll be talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the standing president and vice president, and their administration. And I'll also be talking about the three most present people running for the Republican side of the election: President Trump, former President Trump, and Nikki Haley, and Ron DeSantis. There are other people that were running for president, the position to be nominated for the presidency, but most of them have dropped out. I think it's interesting that Vivek dropped out this week, but he endorsed Trump, and he's been already espousing the virtues of the former president. So I think that's an interesting thing. I don't recall ever having a candidate drop out of the presidential race and this soon endorse somebody. And I think it shows a lot about Vivek. Of course, the first thing you need to learn is his name, how you pronounce it. And I'm not sure I pronounce it correctly. Vivek, like cake, Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he added a lot to the debates and interesting opinions for the younger generation in this country. And I think he was well received, even though his numbers were very low. With the others, he had some interesting thoughts. So I think you'll see more of him, even though he's not running for the presidential nomination. There are talks on the other side, on the left side, on the Democrat side, which I have to give my opinion that I don't think the Democrat Party is anything like it was a few years ago when President Kennedy was elected president. I think it has changed. I think it started changing after that. And I don't think it recently has changed for the better. Quite frankly, I'm not sure who is running our country. Today, I heard on the news that the United Kingdom has a little problem going on. Prince William is overseeing everything while his father goes in to have prostate surgery. It's just apparently a swollen prostate, not cancerous. And his father being King Charles, and his princess, Kate, his wife, is going in for stomach cancer, apparently did have it, and he is also running the country with the parliament right now. He is in charge. Now switch it back to the United States. Where the heck was our Secretary of Defense for a week? We heard nothing of him. He was missing. There's a strange emergency call to his house. Don't turn your sirens on the ambulance. Don't turn your lights on in the ambulance. The President of the United States did not know he was in the hospital. Apparently, none of his staff knew. His second in command was on vacation in Puerto Rico, I believe it was. What the hell? Who was running the country? We're in like 3 wars right now. Maybe not officially, but we are backing Ukraine. We are helping Israel. We are in the Red Sea trying to protect our shipping lines, trying to help Taiwan keep their lines open. They just elected a new president, and already China is looking at them like, I can't wait to get my hands on them. So where was everybody? Where is the nuclear football? Does it go back and forth to Connecticut all the time? Or Delaware? I don't know. But right away, you knew what was going on in the UK. I'd say that's a better plan than we have. The other thing that came up to me was how does a president choose his cabinet and his administration? Is it only by DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because I can't think of too many people in this cabinet who have a lot of knowledge and experience as to what they are doing. Obviously, the Secretary of Defense goes into the hospital and doesn't tell anybody. That doesn't show me leadership. It shows me negligence. Whatever he had, whether it was maybe cosmetic surgery, maybe it was cancer, maybe it was who knows what it was, because they haven't definitively informed us of what it was. What about the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg? Let me tell you, I used to visit Indiana quite frequently, and to be the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, does not give you enough knowledge, ability, or anything else to become the Secretary of Transportation. He was given that position because of gender. You know, they had these slots they had to fill for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What about the one who was a former admiral and is a trans woman or trans man? I don't even know, I get them backwards. Now, don't think I am against gay people. I'm not. Two of my very best, dearest friends are gay. I love them. And they love us. We are together a lot. I'm not against that. I'm not against somebody who has the credentials other than DEI to be put in a position of power. This is not a learning session. This is real life. I don't feel safe anymore. And apparently, a lot of other women don't feel safe either. There are even men who don't feel safe. Jamie Dimon came out at the Davos Forum saying that they had better stop talking about all of the wishy-washy stuff that's going on and get down to it and stop bashing MAGA and all of that. He wants them to concentrate on what's going on in the world. And that is not Biden. So this is a big deal. What do you think is going to happen? Will they leave the Biden, Kamala Harris ticket in, or will they come to somebody else? There have been talks that Michelle Obama is going to step in there, even though she has said that she will not step in there. That means she has to get rid of Kamala, because I don't think she would want her for vice president, but I don't think Kamala would be too happy stepping down from what she thinks is an easy reach for the presidency. She's not ready to be president. She's not even ready to be vice president. She hasn't fulfilled any of her roles, like czar of the border, helping us contain immigration, putting some strict laws back in, welcoming people who are well qualified to be a citizen of the greatest nation in the world. Well, we're slowly descending out of that position, I'll tell you that. So right now, I'm wondering who's going to step in there. Will they have Biden step out, or will he trip all over himself trying to step out? What is wrong with his wife who says she loves him, and him that says he loves her? If I had a husband who was sinking into dementia as he is, when he can't even read a speech and says things like, turn the page, stop here, tell them to clap, You go this direction, you go that direction. Well, he's now wearing tennis shoes. She at least had him put rubber soles on so he doesn't slip and slide and trip up the airplane stairs anymore. But she always has to go help him on with his coat. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's very womanly, very wifely. It's very polite. But does she have to continually have to point him in the right direction to exit the stage? That, my friend, is a little too far. I do believe he has a cognitive problem, and I don't think he's qualified to run for president again. But I'm not a Democrat. So what are you going to do as a Democrat? Or are you going to turn to a third party? You know, there are several other parties in the United States. Nobody talks too much about them. But there are people who run every year for president. The most prominent one is Robert Kennedy Jr. I, for one, admire him for running for president. I wouldn't do it after two of my father and my uncle were both assassinated. The Kennedy name seems to attract crazy people, I'm sorry to say. I happen to like Kennedy. I like his beliefs on pharmaceuticals, medical or health care system in this country. I think it needs an upgrade. And I think he would be very good at doing that. And I would hope that, I don't think he has a chance at all. But you do know that these people can be on the ballot under the third party names of whatever they are, like the Green Party, always on there. So this is a democracy. It's only in the primaries where you have to be registered as a Republican or a Democrat to vote in those primaries. Otherwise, you know, you can get your name put on it and run for president. Now, I truly believe if the right person doesn't get into the White House as president, we are looking at sinking into communism, socialism, communism. I actually think we've kind of skipped over socialism and we're heading to communism fast. Have you noticed anybody looking into your bank accounts lately? Well, after January 6th, nobody has told me who exactly ordered it. So I'm questioning it. Some people have said it was for just data collection of who buys things and who doesn't. But I find it very odd that this would happen right after January 6th, and they would be checking to see if your checking account or any bank account was writing checks or sending money to something that said MAGA or Trump. And the people that they were looking for were particularly people that shopped at outdoor sporting goods stores like Dick's Sporting Goods stores and the Big Fishing Company, Cabela, and all of these. If that isn't taking away some of your rights to privacy, I don't know what is. You know, I've been one that as soon as I was given a gift by my son, and that year, all of us in the family were given little Alexa machines by my son because he was in the entertainment industry and he had access to them, and he thought that would be fun for all of us and we could all listen to any of the music we wanted to listen to by saying, Alexa, do this. Well, fine and dandy until we all find out that they're listening to our conversations all the time, even when we're not talking to Alexa. And I think most of the country knows and understands that now. I think most of the country understands that we are being watched on things and listened to on things like my podcast show. Me, little old me that would never start an insurrection. Come on. I believe in democracy. I'm a patriot. But I was taken off YouTube twice already. And I'm sorry to say that that wasn't my favorite thing to happen to me. So we are being more than looked at. And it happens to be the side I'm not on that's doing this. So let's start or move on down our list. The two things that are the most important for women voters this year in choosing a candidate are immigration and the economy. First of all, immigration, we've talked about a little bit, but we had a very strong border when President Trump was in. And then, of course, that day that President Biden stepped into office, he made a great show of having the entire stack of anything President Trump had pushed through tore up. I think it was a great theatrical show. So, interestingly, immigration is a huge concern to women voters, and I'll tell you why. There have been many people found on the immigration list, the illegal immigration list, that have been on the terror watch list. There have been a couple of people killed by illegal immigrants coming across. There was a woman on the news today whose daughter had been strangled by one of these criminal immigrants who snuck in across the border. Some of them are passed right through because they have phony papers and we try to catch them, but we don't even have enough people on the border anymore to run everybody through. Millions have come through, millions. And I'm tired of hearing this thing about how President Trump separated families. Did you want the children mixed in with people who were sex offenders and all? And if they got up to run to one of the bathrooms, their parents couldn't see them or they couldn't go with them. Somebody might snatch them. Come on, give me a break. Think about everything that goes on with this. This is horrible. Now, let's talk a little bit about disease. We don't have enough border people to screen every single person coming across this border. Do you know what they're bringing at cost? We don't even know in what large amounts they're bringing these diseases across. They can't screen for everything with everyone. But let's just look at a little list of what they're bringing in. STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. That's a big one. Hepatitis B and hepatitis C. We've got a lot of people with the STDs that have HIV that are not being treated. Tuberculosis, measles. You know, you've heard lately on the news about the breakout in measles again. You know, our children are vaccinated in early childhood, and even some of them as babies, with all these different wonderful vaccines that have been proven safe to keep them from getting childhood diseases like measles, mumps, rubella, polio, things like that. So some vaccinations are good, but none of these immigrants have been vaccinated for all of that, or if they have, very few, and you don't see them saying, I've been vaccinated. They are bringing these things across. They're even bringing across things that are transmitted through mosquitoes. They're bringing mosquitoes in some of their luggage and all. They get in there and they breed. They're going into the water. Still water attracts mosquitoes. So when the Rio Grande rises, it sometimes leaves pools. So here come the mosquitoes transmitting these diseases. They also have brought across things like listeria, and they've also brought across some terrible gut diseases that we don't know how to treat, or we don't know what they have. So that is another terrible thing about illegal immigration. To say nothing of the legal immigration, where we have people that have been waiting 5 to 11 years to come across and be wonderful citizens of our country. They're coming with skills, they're coming with money to go and help their relatives, or to buy a house, or to rent an apartment, to get a skilled job, whether it's in technology or working in a factory. They want to pledge their allegiance forever to the United States. Now, which one do you want? The one that's bringing all these diseases as a gift to you? Or do you want the one that has been waiting 5 to 11 years to become a legal citizen, that is going to be proud to have the stars and stripes as their flag? And I'm not talking about just Mexico. I'm talking about everybody who's coming across the border that hate the United States. They admit they're only coming here to get money. They don't admit that they want an education, that they want to better the United States and help us against crime. They're committing crime. Not every one of them. Some of them truly are being harassed and threatened for their moral, religious beliefs, and they're being terrorized by gangs or people in their country that are trying to take over their countries. I understand that, but you have to seek amnesty for a reason that is accepted. It's not just because I want money. Well, look at how much money they've already gotten. Some of them have been given credit cards for $5,000 credit on them. Some of them have been given cell phones. Most of them have been given cell phones. Last time I went to check my cell phone, I didn't want to spend the money to upgrade it. This is craziness. They get these nice cell phones. And you know who they're supposed to call? They're supposed to call somebody to tell them that, yes, they will make their court appearance to see if they really can stay here because of amnesty. You know when their court dates are? One woman set her court date and showed the papers to the reporter. It's 10 years away. Well, let me tell you something. If she has to wait 10 years, the way we're going, we're not even going to be here and nobody will give a darn. 10 years. Do you think she's going to pick up the phone in 10 years and say, I need to know where to come for my court date so that I can stay in the United States? Where are the people getting the money to cross when they're telling us that there aren't really coyotes anymore, like the people that were coming across in the 70s that were paying anywhere from $500 to $5,000 to come across the border? The coyotes would bring them across. You didn't hear the stories about the rape and the people dying all the time. I'm not condoning that, but the coyotes were interested in making money for their families too, until the cartels got busy and they figured out that they could bring more drugs in here, fentanyl-laced pills that look like candy. The cartels took over everything. The cartels go into cities like Tijuana and Ensenada, and they shoot the mayors, the good mayors that run for office, and try to keep the cartels out. The cartels have no allegiance to anybody except the cartel jefe, chief, whomever that may be. Now, we've gotten rid of some of them, but it didn't stop anybody. You need to take out these cartels. You need to get the president of Mexico to help you. He needs to also weed out the people coming from China and other countries that want to spy on us. Terrorist countries who protect the terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and protect them in their countries and sneak them into these hordes of people coming across the border. We're in danger, people. You better think about that when you're voting and tell me what you think about the border security now and what you thought about it a few years ago. That's all I'm saying. That's number one reason women are worried about this election and concerned about this election. And the second half of that is reproduction, abortion. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I know I do have some men who listen in and they have their opinions on this too. But as I say to them, they helped make the baby, but they don't have the same thing going on in their body as a woman does making a baby. Now, I happen to be in favor of abortion with limitations and protections, and I am not in favor of any kind of abortion where you take a child that is about ready to be born and you kill it. That is murder. I am talking about things like rape, incest, something that's terribly wrong with the child that dies in the womb and the woman has to carry it for 9 months. I'm talking about really radical things that have happened to the mother or the baby. I know a lot of you are not in favor of abortion at all, and that is your privilege and your religion, most likely, and I respect that. But I don't think that you should be voting for somebody who is in favor of abortion with no restrictions. So we got that out of the way because there are a lot of people who are covering that, and I'm not going to anymore. That's my feeling about it. So that are the number one most important things on the list for women, what they're considering when they're thinking about their candidate for president and whomever his running partner might be. The second thing that they're most important about are also tied. And one of them is crime, but it's sort of linked also to gun laws and what's happening in schools and school shootings and things like this, drive-by shootings and all. And crime, running cars into drugstores and ripping things off, taking people and pushing them all into stores and ripping up all the jewelry and the handbags and the clothing and all. That's crime. The little old lady who's in the parking lot trying to go into the drugstore to get her drugs, and she's parked her car and they surround her car and they rip her handbag out and then they run into the pharmacy. Well, most pharmacies have gates up now that they can close immediately, so they protect the drugs and themselves. But even some drugstores like a CVS in the high crime areas have everything behind plastic or glass, acrylic or glass, and you have to ask to get what you want. There was a place in, I believe it was San Francisco, that Whole Foods was going to open, if I'm correct. It was Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. I believe it was Whole Foods. They were going to open on this corner in San Francisco, and they thought it would be wonderful because there's lots of condominiums and apartments in walking distance to downtown from wonderful areas, what used to be wonderful areas. They closed it before it ever opened. The crime around them surged so much that they closed that store. They never had their grand opening. They never opened it, period. The streets of San Francisco, open your Golden Gate, Los Angeles, Hollywood, they're disgusting. I grew up here in Southern California in Los Angeles. I loved it. I have always wanted to spend my final days in California, sunny California. Well, pollution, Now we're cleaning that up because we don't have snow and ice, so we can have electric vehicles. The only problem is most of the charging stations don't work. The only problem is, how can somebody who has 2 kids in college and needs a car for the mother and a car for the father to get to their jobs, if you have to spend $100,000 on the darn electric car? They're not driving cars like that. They're not buying Mercedes and Porsches. They're buying Kias. They're buying all of the Japanese cars that are built for less and sell for less. Wake up, Detroit. They need SUVs that don't cost $100,000, $70,000. Even a used one costs that much. They sure as heck don't need an electric vehicle that can't even be charged in your home, because to put the charger in your home is close to $100,000. And don't forget, if the battery goes bad, it's also $100,000. Great. Let's try to cut back on emissions. Not to get off subject, but I'd like them to stop doing chemtrails in the sky to try to make it rain. What are the chemtrails doing to me? They're making me sick. They're making your babies sick. They're making your children sick. Chemtrails, chemical trails. That's not skywriting or something. Those are seeding clouds. Let's jump back again. Sorry, sometimes I get so upset I digress. So what I'm saying is, you have to have a plan. You just can't put these stupid laws in that by 19, I'm living in the past, 2030 or 2050, everybody in the United States has to have an electric vehicle. That's craziness. There was no reason to take down the wall on the border. That's craziness. What a waste of money. The wall needs to be up there. We do not need everybody to be driving an electric vehicle now until we figure out how they're not so expensive and how you're going to charge them, the distance you can go, and the price. Who is this helping? Now, I'm a fan of Elon Musk. I'm glad he developed this, and it's gone on to everybody else because, of course, they were afraid he would corner the market, which he did there for a while. He has some brilliant ideas, but I don't think he thought through the charging stations. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there owned by Tesla, but there's a lot of them out there owned by the government and other people, and I'm not even sure who they are because I don't own an electric vehicle, and at my age, I don't intend to ever own an electric vehicle. And I have 2 grandmas in my family, one on each side, that lived to be over 100. So in my age, I've got 30 more years to live, and I'm never going to own an electric vehicle. Okay. Another dumb idea. Oh no, I digress again. So this and crime. Well, how are we going to solve this horrible problem of school crime and everything else? We've tried putting police officers in the schools. All the schools have shooter. You know, like we used to have fire drills. Well, they have shooter drills now, active shooter drills. We even had bomb drills when we were growing up and we were in elementary school. Drop. You get down and you cover up your head. You get underneath your desk. No, I'm not going to put my butt in the air underneath the desk for you. So we'd go out into the hall and put our head against the wall like this and sit cross-legged. Now they have active shooter. It breaks my heart. My grandkids, 5 and 9. That's little. They have active shooter drills. It breaks my heart. But you know what would break my heart more? If they didn't have them and something horrible happened. These people who have had children in high school, elementary school, and all around with active shooters and killing these kids, it breaks my heart. But it also makes me angry. And here we have the terrible shooting where the first man on the scene didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he could go after the active shooter. He didn't know if he'd get shot. I don't know what his thoughts were, but he's in big trouble now. He's in big trouble because so many children were killed. So we need people that are trained. We don't need a crossing guard in schools. We need somebody that carries a gun, a former policeman, a former firefighter that knows how to shoot a gun, knows how to take care of people. We need those kind of people to be hired. Now, I'm not saying they all want to go and put themselves in that position. It's a huge responsibility being one guy in a school that maybe has 500, 1,000 kids, because, you know, in the inner cities, these schools are overcrowded. And even in the suburbs, some of them are overcrowded. So you need more than one person. And just that, these two things are just so paramount to the mothers, the sisters, the wives, the daughters, because you can vote when you're 18. They're so worried about these things that these two things combined are the second most important things to women voters. So candidates, what the heck are you going to do about it? Because you know what? Women are surpassing men in being registered voters. Women will decide this election, and they're not going to just vote for some woman who doesn't know what the heck she's talking about and can't even do the job she was assigned as border czar. Okay? So the Democrats have a problem. And if you're a Democrat, you better look at it, and you better look at it hard, because who knows, some Republicans may decide that they want to vote with you. But if you have a bunch of wackos, yeah, I said it, wackos, nobody wants to vote for you. And we're a two-party, basically a two-party nation. So I'm not going to get into telling you everything about the candidates that are running. I'm just telling you about what's been happening the last 3 years in our country and how we're about to lose a democracy, a democratic republic, and telling you what could happen and what won't happen and what may happen, what will happen. All right. The third thing are the gun laws. It kind of goes with the crime in the schools, but the gun laws need to be changed. And I don't mean that women want all guns to be banned. They certainly do not. They want to be, like I just said, in the schools. They want to be able to have carry laws where you can have concealed carry laws. You can have it in your handbag. You can have it under your jacket, on your belt. If you have a good reason because you have a crazy ex-husband or a crazy ex-boyfriend or some stalker, that brings back to memory the beautiful young actress in Los Angeles who had a stalker and nobody would pay any attention to her or watched him, and he walked right up to her apartment on a very nice street in the West Hollywood section of town. And she opened the door and it was him. And he shot her point blank and killed her. So there are reasons you want to have concealed carry. And yes, sometimes the little child will find the gun. So hopefully you will have it on safety, unless you're going someplace, and you won't have it anywhere in the house where a child can get the gun. Or you won't put your handbag in the grocery cart while you got your little baby sitting in the grocery cart and your handbag next to it, and you're looking at some kind of soup to buy, and the baby gets the gun out and starts sucking on it, and bam. You have to be a responsible adult to be able to have a gun. And hunters out there, I know it's fun to hunt, I understand it. I'm not against hunting, but you must raise your children the correct way. And honestly, I've never heard of a hunter who's a true hunter who hasn't raised their children the right way if they're interested in hunting. And they teach them the whole thing. You hunt for food and you learn how to take care of the food. You don't do trophy hunting. And you keep your weapons locked up. So that's gun control also, but taking all the guns away from private citizens, I am not in favor of. You know, third world countries, dictatorships, things like that. Like what used to be the USSR. I'm very careful about what I say sometimes. I don't want to get in trouble. How about China and different places like that? You don't want everybody to be unarmed. Besides that, it's in the Constitution, the right to bear arms. Okay. I want to know how many people would stand up and fight for the USA and fight for that flag. I think a lot of you would. All right, the last thing I'm going to discuss today, that what is interesting women and what they want to see changed or enhanced by the candidates, and wish that the candidates would speak more about it, is healthcare and the whole argument over vaccinations. They want to hear what the candidates say about both subjects. They want to know about Medicare, Medicaid, Medi-Cal, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Who knows what they have in all the different states? I have no idea. They want to know what's going on with that. They want to know what's going on with Social Security, because we've had people tell the general population that they're going to take away Social Security, or they're going to cut the age because the age of living is longer and the little tiny kids growing up won't have Social Security. Well, it is a concern because they keep taking money from Social Security to pay our trillions and trillions of dollars of debt in the United States. Even our credit rating of the United States was lowered. That's crazy. Now you're going to come back to me and tell me that most women don't like Trump because he left trillions of dollars on the table. He spent, put us in debt. But if he'd been reelected, all of that was coming back. There were plans to put everything in place to keep the economy going. If you think our economy is okay now because they said inflation is stable right now, you're wrong. It doesn't matter if inflation is stable. How do you feed your kids? The prices haven't come down. You know, one of the reasons we were renting an apartment because we couldn't decide where we wanted to live. And I think I've spoken about this on previous shows. But we looked all over. And the funny thing is, we bought a beautiful condominium with a mortgage that was lower than what we were paying for our apartment up in the Westlake area. And it was going to go up every year, more and more and more. So we decided, let's move to the desert and be happy. And we are happy. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody can pick and choose where they want to live. And you know that buying housing is down, and they're trying to change this ridiculous law for realtors where they're saying only the person who gets a commission is the person who lists the house. What are you trying to destroy? Another industry? Of course, both sides should get a commission. The seller and the buyer. You guys, everybody is ruining industries. And for what? For the greedy elite that are in Davos with the highest paid hookers in the world? Come on, this is who's been running the different countries. There are, now don't make me look like I'm saying that everybody there is a horrible person. They're not. There's some really great, great minds there. All right, that does it for me today. I'm not going to be haranguing everybody right now anymore today. Next week, I'm going to concentrate on health, I do believe. I found some interesting information in my research. So I will be talking about that. But the purpose of my show today is for you to not just vote a straight party line. Look at the third parties. There are some great people. They're not wacky. They're not crazy. There's one who runs, I think it is the Green Party. She runs every year. Her name is Jill, I believe. I don't know because I don't pay too much attention to that part of it. But I do want you to look at the main candidates. I want you to look at Robert Kennedy. I want you to look at Joe Biden and former President Trump or whomever gets the primary spot on the Republican ticket. In other words, I want you to do your research and do it for yourself, and not just because you don't like former President Trump's former orange hair. Don't be stupid. The world is full of hate. Why don't you spread the love? Why don't you look at all the wonderful things he did, all the money he gave back to the government every month when his salary was due? Every month to different parts of the government. Look at the things he's done anonymously for people who have had terrible problems in their life, like that former Miss Universe, that he paid her bills, her hospital bills, and took care of her child after she passed from cancer. Why don't you look at those good things? Now, I don't tell you anything good about Joe Biden because I think he's a thief, but that's my opinion. So you go and you tell me what he's done, and I'd be happy to have you contact me at judithmancini.com. I'm being very crazy putting my email up there, not up there, speaking it. So you do it. I'm just trying to educate you in what the heck is happening to our country. And if you don't want to lose our democratic republic, you better start doing your research now. And you better vote in the primaries. And you better get registered to vote, because you can't just register the day of the primary, at least not in the state of California. So get out there and do your part and save the USA. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today.